This is the picture again. I'm still intrigued by what I think I see as the president's head. In just a second, we'll clear that space between the end of the window and the side of the car. It's coming up in just a second. Right there. It seems to me that he ducked again, as if struck by something. I have no way of knowing.
Well, I don't think you're suggesting that he was struck at that point.
That's my impression.
Well, I guess we'll have to find that out. I would assume that by that time, we don't know how many shots were fired.
Yeah.
We don't, and I guess it's idle for us to speculate. One of the things I'm waiting to find out,
yes,
as they go over this, is how many shots in all were fired and in what space of time. Because right after that, the president was, not so gently, but for his own benefit, shoved into the car. We then saw very soon thereafter the suspect already in custody.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think it should be added that no one is dead.
No one is dead.
There are no fatalities. Jim Brady appeared to be the most seriously hurt of all of them, but he's alive. We don't know his condition exactly, but we have been told, in case anybody suspects otherwise, that all of those who were injured, that is to say, the president, as we now know, Jim Brady, his press secretary, his Secret Service agent, and the District of Columbia police officer, all injured, and no one is dead.
Then Vice President Bush, who was out of the city, is being rushed back from Texas. And in just a little bit, we're going to be switching live to George Washington University Hospital. White House correspondent Bob Berkowitz and correspondent Scott Barrett are there, and they'll be bringing us up to date.
For the area in the West Wing where Jim Brady's office is, there was incredible concern, as you can easily believe. We learned then that 3 people had been hit, the Secret Service man, the Washington policeman, and Press Secretary Jim Brady. We were told then that the president had not been hit, apparently on the basis of the fact that people saw him being pushed into the car. Now the White House is saying, as you know, that he was hit, and that is the same report that we have, that it was in the left side of the chest and that his condition is stable. We know that Mrs. Reagan has left the White House for George Washington University Hospital. She is, of course, there by now and presumably with the president, who we are told is conscious and in stable condition. We have no further word on the conditions of the other 3 men who were hit, the Secret Service man, the policeman, and Press Secretary James Brady. And as you have seen in the videotape, the assailant was, or the alleged assailant, captured by policemen on the scene and taken away, as now we understand, in Secret Service custody. Beyond that, Dan, we can only tell you that, as you yourself know, the situation at the White House at a time like this is one of intense concern, waiting, and on the part of some of the people who were close to those who were hit, tears.
Bill Plant, if you'll stay exactly where you are at the White House, we'll have more in a moment, but in the meantime, we want to pause so that our stations along the line can identify themselves.
Support for the workers of Poland who said they are sentinels on the, stalwart sentinels of freedom in the condition today. They have just closed the stock market, we understand. They have closed the stock market in New York because of this incident. We're going to go to the hospital now. I understand our correspondent, Joe Benton, is there. Let's bring him up right away. Let's switch to GW Hospital. Can we do that? Joe, can you hear me? If he can't hear me, just tell him to go ahead.
Spokesman Len Knopfsinger came out of George Washington University Hospital about 10 or 15 minutes ago, and he confirmed for us that President Reagan has been shot once in the left side of the chest. The bullet apparently entered under the president's left arm and missed his heart. Mr. Knopfsinger says President Reagan is conscious and he is in stable condition. About a half an hour ago, Mrs. Reagan arrived at the hospital. She rushed right in. She said nothing to anyone as she entered the hospital. And a few moments later, an Air Force helicopter made a pass overhead. There's apparently nowhere for it to land here, and the president is still inside the hospital. Again, repeating, he is in stable condition, and he is said to be conscious. We are also told that press spokesman Jim Brady was wounded. I hear he was wounded in the forehead. There is no report on his condition or the condition of a Secret Service agent also said to be wounded, and a D.C. city policeman who is said to be wounded. But again, repeating, press spokesman Len Knopfsinger came outside and told us that President Reagan has indeed been shot in the left side of the chest, that he is conscious and in stable condition.
Okay, Joe. All right. Thank you very much. That was Joe Benton at the George Washington University Hospital confirming what we have learned, that the president was shot. The bullet entered his left side. He is in stable condition and is conscious. Mrs. Reagan is there. We have not yet had a report on the condition of Jim Brady, the White House press secretary, who also was shot, and a Secret Service agent and a Washington, City of Washington or District of Columbia policeman also was injured. Let's go to the White House now and Bill Greenwood. Bill?
Frank, as you might imagine, it's somewhat pandemonium here at the White House. When news of the shooting began to circulate in Washington, reporters and staff members, government officials began making their way to the executive mansion to try and find out what is happening. Most of the top officials of the administration have gone to George Washington University Hospital. A few minutes ago, we saw Deputy Press Secretary Larry Speakes leave in a Secret Service escorted limousine. He was accompanied by White House Chief of Staff James Baker and the President's counsel, Ed Meese. They obviously are interested in finding out exactly how bad the president's injuries are, but we are led to believe here that they are only bad enough so that his condition is called stable. It does not appear to be a life-threatening situation from what we are being told by officials here at the White House. But as we say, information here is very difficult to come by. Almost minutes after the shooting, Secret Service agents telephoned the First Lady to inform her of what had happened, and she immediately got into a limousine to go to George Washington Hospital just moments after the shooting. She is now at the hospital, as Joe Benton, I believe, reported to you. We expect that any major medical bulletin will be issued from the hospital, which is about 1 mile from here. National Security Advisor Richard Allen has been walking around the building, making sure that there is not some sort of a conspiracy involved, we would think. He has been in and out of the Situation Room, in and out of the press secretary's office, trying to comfort staff members, many of whom have been seen in tears. It has, as you can well imagine, been a very emotional, shocking situation, something that has caught the people who knew and worked with Mr. Reagan off guard, as well as we, the press, who cover and report his activities. Back to you, Frank.
All right, thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. Our Pentagon correspondent, John McWethy, reports that Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger left the Pentagon just a short while ago and took off for the White House. And Vice President Bush, who has been speaking spoke today in Fort Worth, and I believe was due to continue on somewhere else. I'm not exactly sure where. But his trip has been, wherever he was going anyway, has been canceled, has been diverted back to Washington, and he is now on his way to Andrews Air Force Base, the place where presidents and vice presidents, government dignitaries land. It's just outside Washington here a short while ago. He was in Texas at the time of the shooting today. We're still waiting for further word on the condition of the president, who was the target of an assassination attempt at just about an hour ago, 2:30 or so in Washington time. We'll have some further eyewitness accounts in a moment or so, so we'll just stay on here to try to stay abreast of this situation as best we can.
Because I was about a car length and a half away from where he was, and I couldn't see him, but I did see some agents crouched on the other side of the car, and I assumed that he had been pushed in, but didn't know whether he was in good condition or not. And when I asked some of the Secret Service agents who were still standing after his car pulled away, they said he had not been hurt. So that was the story the White House put out for the first hour or so.
Judy?
Ed, back to you. Or Roger?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Judy?
Yes, I can.
What, do you expect a briefing there in a matter of moments?
I haven't heard. I've been standing here. I haven't gotten word of that.
They're all listening to you on the television down there, aren't they?
I think so.
What Lynn Nofziger has reported is that Mr. Reagan is, quote, not at this time in surgery or headed for surgery. An official apparently at George Washington University Hospital said that Mr. Reagan walked into the hospital. But Nofziger, who is the president's political advisor, said the president apparently did not immediately realize that he had been wounded and that the bullet was still lodged in his chest. Mr. Nofziger said that the president is not at this time in surgery or headed for surgery. Officials said the shots coming on the 70th day of Mr. Reagan's presidency struck the bulletproof limousine, lodging in the side and striking the windshield, leaving a pockmark but not penetrating the glass of the presidential limousine.